Hey CW Apes, Mr. Kennedy here with part 2 of Chapter 17, Air Pollution Notes. We're going to shift gears from the outside and go inside. So, hey, indoor air pollution. Like, this is about the air inside the building that you're breathing, and you're going to see a little bit of carryover from some of the stuff that we talked about in regards to outdoor air pollution on the inside too. The EPA found indoor concentrations of toxic air pollutants are actually often higher than outdoor air pollutants. Because if you think about it, like you're producing pollution inside your house with all the windows closed, and like when do you ventilate? Like, yeah, like how is that stuff supposed to get out? People also generally spend more time indoors, which means that you're going to get an elevated exposure to this stuff, which again can lead to all kinds of respiratory illness from just being inside your own home or your place of business, which is not cool. Okay? Chloroform, benzene, and other chemicals in carpeting, paint, and homes can be found in concentrations that actually would be illegal in the workplace. So let's look at kind of like the laundry list of indoor air pollutants from a single slide in this PowerPoint. So check this out. This is like an all-in-one. You got this picture also in your textbooks, so check it out. You need to make sure you study the names of these air pollutants, where they come from, and the threats that they create. And note to self, if you're ever taking a test on indoor-outdoor air pollutants, like stop with the cancer thing. Like air pollution doesn't always cause cancer. Like a better answer on a quiz or a test would be like asthma, right? Bronchitis. Like that kind of stuff happens. Of course, there are a few that can lead to cancer. Like if you look at chloroform in the top corner here, right? Like that can cause cancer. All right, stuff like that. So study this diagram. Mr. Kennedy is not going to read you every box because you'll fall asleep in this video. So we're going to move on from here and talk about who's most at risk for these indoor air pollutants. Smokers, infants and children under the age of 5, the old, those people that are already sick with like pre-existing conditions, pregnant women, those people that have respiratory and heart problems, or even just factory workers who are around this stuff all the time. One good case to look at with regard to like how indoor air pollution can make you feel is this right here. This is sick building syndrome. So sick building syndrome is a condition where a person experiences fatigue, headaches, dizziness, nausea, or other flu-like symptoms when they're inside a building. Now, how do you know the person actually has sick building syndrome instead of like the flu? Well, if they go outside and they still feel lousy, then it's probably the flu. If they go outside and they feel better, then it's probably sick building syndrome. Air pollutants are spread throughout buildings through the air ventilation systems and even ceiling fibers that can be falling from tiles and insulation that's right above your head. Cigarette smoke is a serious concern for indoor air pollution. Now, not only does cigarette smoke produce PM 2.5, but there's all kinds of other stuff, if you look at that picture, that comes off of the end of a cigarette as it's smoked. So PM 2.5, there's formaldehyde, there's other toxins, carbon monoxide. Carbon monoxide is a gas, remember, that reacts with your hemoglobin in your red blood cells and can lead to slower reflexes, headaches, drowsiness, dizziness, and nausea. Formaldehyde inside your home. Well, it's used commonly in wood paneling and glue and, furniture and carpet and all kinds of stuff like that. So the amount of formaldehyde that you're exposed to really depends on what kind of things you have inside your house. At the end of the day, it too can cause dizziness, headaches, and respiratory distress or issues like asthma and bronchitis. Asbestos. Asbestos is a silicate mineral. If you looked at it under a microscope, it would blow your mind. It literally looks like a pile of like little swords underneath a microscope. And like these things are super tiny. And if you breathe them in, they get lodged deep into your lungs and they can cause cancer, mesothelioma, right? That's bad stuff. It can be fatal. So where does it come from? Well, asbestos is usually used in insulation. So like the stuff wrapped around pipes and floor tiles and ceiling tiles and stuff like that. And as long as it stays undisturbed, then you're pretty much okay. It's when that stuff gets disturbed or broken or somebody's trying to remove it for whatever reason that we start to see people get like sick from asbestos. Now, asbestos in the modern world, well, its incidence and its impact on people, should be decreasing, because between 1900 and 1984, in its heyday, that's when it was sprayed and used and like dumped everywhere. But after 1984, like, we banned the use of asbestos. So realistically, all the modern homes that we live in that were built from like 1985 and on, no asbestos, like, because it's illegal. But if you're in a building that's got materials in it that were installed before 1985, like 1984 and back, then you got to be careful with the asbestos stuff. Asbestos was banned in 1984. All right, moving on. Radon gas. So, odorless, tasteless, colorless gas. And it's produced from the radioactive decay of uranium-238, which is present like in soil, like in granite, which in a lot of places is right under your feet in your home. There's not a lot you can do about radon gas if your home was built over a granite slab that has uranium-238 in it and it's decaying. Like, the stuff will creep upward through the soil into basements, through foundation cracks, or into the groundwater. If you inhale it, your lung tissue is exposed to the ionizing radiation, it can create lung cancer. So that's not good in a simple sense, okay? Now, how do we reduce indoor air pollution? Well, it should be pretty straightforward. You ban smoking in public places. California did this in 1995. Like, you can't smoke in a restaurant, in a place of business in the state of California, but you can still smoke inside your own home or your own car. And so if you're doing that and you're, around others and smoking, well, at the end of the day, they're smoking what you're smoking. You got firsthand smoke. They've got secondhand smoke. Like, it's not good no matter how you cut it. You could cover ceiling tiles to remove asbestos. You could have stricter formaldehyde emission standards for furniture and building materials. You could prevent radon infiltration by better construction and planning techniques, and you could just increase building ventilation. At the end of the day, like, developing countries, like I said at the beginning of this, we're getting better even with indoor air pollution, but the less developed countries or developing countries still suffer with massive amounts of indoor air pollution. Here we have a woman who's actually cooking a meal over an open fire inside of her home, right? So using organic fuels as an energy source, maybe it's for light, maybe it's cooking like this, like all that carbon monoxide, particulate matter, CO2, like, it's going right into the same room that everybody's in. There's no chimney there, right? It's just circulating in the room for everybody to breathe, right? So these rooms are often smoky, poorly ventilated, and as a result, lots of respiratory issues in developing countries, like bronchitis, asthma, and yes, even lung cancer. All right, ladies and gents, I'm going to pause here. That's the end of what I wanted to tell you about air pollution inside your home. We're going to finish chapter 17 by going to part 3, looking at climate and topography and how that influences air pollution, and what we're doing, like, law-wise, to protect you and the rest of the world from all the stuff that we've been learning about through these videos. All right, so take a deep breath, right? Stretch out those fingers and get yourself another sheet of paper, something to write with, because I'll be right back with part 3. I'm Mr. Kennedy, and I'll see you in a minute.